so very unfazed. Players putting down prize cards now and just setting up the game. Having a look at Azul's prizes, a couple of escape boards, those could be a bit tricky. He does need to be able to retreat his Jirachis, use that Stellar Wish as much as he can. But of course, this deck does run so many switching options. Hopefully that won't affect him too much. We're going to jump straight into the game now. Christian looks like he's going to be going first, and as we said, pretty streamlined turn from Malamar usually is just to get down lots of Inkay, and if they so choose, play an Ultra Necrozma GX and attach an energy, and it looks like that's what he's going to be doing to get maximum value out of that Lily on the first turn.
Yeah, and very strong energy attachment, that Beast Energy Prism Star. It allows Ultra Necrozma to do 130 damage just by discarding a single Psychic Energy, so that's very good at knocking out Zapdos, which has 110 HP. Typically, if you have one Metal Energy and one Psychic Energy, you only do 100 and you're 10 short. So having that Beast Energy will give him the opportunity to attack on the second turn.
I'm not sure if this is the strategy that we've seen a lot of Malamar players using, though. They tend to go towards playing that Giratina rather than putting down a 2-prize attacker. So it's interesting that Christian has decided this is his strategy going up against Zapdos Jirachi. He's played just as many rounds as everyone, and so he's probably played a lot against Zapdos Jirachi across this tournament. So I suspect that he really has a solid game plan going into this, and the Ultra Necrozma GX apparently features in that.
Sure seems like it. Azul's going to lead off with an Escape Rope, and Christian's going to have to decide, does he want to throw an Inkay out there, or is he going to throw out the Ultra Necrozma? And looks like he's going to send out the Ultra Necrozma. It's a bit risky because then you get hit for 80 damage, and it's an easy 2-hit knockout, and you kind of lose in the prize exchange. But, I mean, if you're going to send out an Inkay, you're going to give up a prize card anyway, so might as well just do it.
There is also that world where Azul can suddenly find all of these damage modifiers, and we have seen it before on a 170 hit point Tabulele GX, as Zapdos has just come into the active spot for 1 energy, knocked out a 2-prize Pokemon. So that isn't out of the realm of possibility here. Off a Cynthia for 6, you're asking for a little bit much, you know, quite a lot of Electro Powers and a Choice Band and energy, but it's not impossible.
This is terrible for Azul. He does not find a Lightning Energy. He's not going to be able to attack on this turn.
Yeah, it does mean it swings back into Christian's favor, possibly a little bit. It does mean he gets to have time to set up some Malamars. No damage will be going down onto that Ultra Necrozma GX, unless we can see something out of Azul that's maybe like a switching into a Jirachi and find some kind of other pieces. But he's played his Draw Supporter for the turn, so not really any other way to find energy.
Yeah, he's got nothing, and that is a big missed opportunity. Usually this Zapdos deck is all about attacking as quickly as possible, getting knockouts, at least getting some damage on those big GXs before your opponent's able to set up. But missing that energy attachment could be the major difference in this game. And something else we should talk about is that, you know, in the history of the Oceania International Championships, a player from the Oceania region has not actually made the top 8 at this event, but Christian is knocking on the door. If he is able to win this match, he'll go to 30 match points and be pretty much secured in that top 8. So he could be a history maker.
And it would be a wonderful story as well, because Christian has been playing Malamar variants pretty much since he started playing the game. He's very, very experienced with Malamar. He's always telling people, this is the best deck. Believe me, believe me. Well, now he's showing to people that this really is the best deck. Malamar with this Psychic Recharge ability, powering up different Pokemon, all these different strategies. And now that he has Jirachi, it looks like he's going to possibly make his way to the top. But he takes a quick knockout onto a Zapdos thanks to that Beast Energy. It's really helped him along there. And Azul's also got to really find something here, some way to come back.
Yeah, the problem for Azul is he probably wants to play Guzma this turn to knock out maybe Inkay or Malamar, but he does not have an energy in his hand yet. So he'll probably need to play something like a Cynthia or a Lily just to find an energy card. And if that's the case, the only thing he can really find is an Escape Rope to force one of those small HP Pokemon off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, Escape Rope's essentially a Guzma, but it's not a supporter. So it's just as good in this case, especially when you don't really mind what you're knocking out on the bench, as long as you can hit that 90 to knock out a Malamar. Seems to find Switch off the Stellar Wish. Considering what he's going to be doing here, what's his optimal line of play? Remembering he can only retreat that Jirachi if he does play that Switch, so there it is. Looks like he's going to Lily and hope to find an energy off two cards. Oh, and he finds one.
Okay, not bad.
So we'll be able to Thunderous Assault this turn, putting some damage counters onto that Necrozma GX. It's not quite as much as you'd hope. It's just the 80 damage with no damage modifiers like Choice Band or Electro Power. Does mean he'll have to find those in combination on another turn to get a knockout on that Ultra Necrozma GX. Christian now seems pretty content to just attach energy and deal 110 damage each turn. I mean, consistently knocking out Zapdos is not a terrible line of action.
It's a bit strange. I think he has Giratina in hand and is opting not to play it down. He could have used Psychic Recharge and has started to power it up, but for whatever reason, he's not benching more Pokemon here.
Yeah, it would give him an option to be able to attack next turn if that Ultra Necrozma GX is knocked out, which is certainly a possibility. And that Shrine of Punishment will help Azul do so as well, putting 1 damage counter on all GX Pokemon in play in between turns. Really puts that Ultra Necrozma GX on a bit of a clock.
And we see Azul using that Dance of the Ancients to get the energy card onto his Zapdos. Just 1 energy in there, but this allows him to play Guzma this turn and take a prize card. And he's going to let that Shrine of Punishment tick up damage a little bit so that when the time is right, he can just attack with Zapdos for 80 damage and finish off the Ultra Necrozma.
Yeah, it means he doesn't have to find those combination pieces. It's pretty easy to just do a Thunderous Assault for 80. I feel like it's the attack that we've possibly announced the most over the course of this weekend, alongside Stellar Wish. But there's a counter to the Shrine of Punishment. It does mean that those damage counters will not tick up. And there's a way to discard Giratina as well to get maximum value out of the Pokemon. Its ability Distortion Door means that if it's in your discard pile, you can take it from your discard pile, put it on your bench, and put 1 damage counter on 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. This works really nicely with Ultra Necrozma GX's Sky Scorching Light GX attack, because we suspect that Azul, I mean, if he puts down 2 Jirachis, they're just primed for that attack to knock them both out if they've taken damage from Giratina. But I kind of feel like Azul's been in this position before. He knows this game. He knows this dance. He's not going to put down 2 Jirachis if he can help it.
So it looks like Christian attached energy for the turn to his Giratina, and he's going to switch into it and use the Shadow Impact for the knockout here. Could have just attached another Psychic Energy to Ultra Necrozma and gotten the knockout there, but perhaps trying to force Azul to use a Guzma at some point to get those 2 prize cards.
Yeah, I don't really mind this play. Christian moves ahead by 2 prizes, and so, you know, if Azul is able to find a Guzma and use that onto the Ultra Necrozma, he will just be even in prizes. So Christian pulling ahead just a little bit here. It's quite nice. It does force Azul to have those extra pieces to be able to get things going.
Yeah, it does feel right now that Azul is a little bit behind. Usually you can afford to be like 1 prize behind against the GX deck because you can make that up at some point by taking the 2 prize knockout. But in this situation, Christian's going to be up 2 prize cards for basically the entirety of the game. And Azul is going to need to make Christian miss a knockout at some point. Otherwise, if this Giratina can just attack every turn, I mean, Azul's never really going to catch up. Giratina knocks out everything in Azul's deck.
And Christian intelligently putting the Shadow Impact 4 damage counters onto a Pokemon that isn't Giratina. He's recognizing that, oh, okay, if you want to knock this out with your Zapdos, you're going to need a couple of modifiers rather than 1 to be able to do so, which is a little bit more challenging for Azul. He also knows that Azul's not really running anything that has spread damage, so that Jirachi's pretty safe there unless it's Guzma'd up or, you know, Christian chooses to promote it with an escape rope effect.
Yeah, it's a smart play because Jirachi's going to get knocked out by Zapdos no matter what. If you put the 4 damage counters on a Malamar, that means Azul doesn't need to find Electro Power if he wants to Guzma one of those out. So smart play from Christian, realizing that the Jirachi gets knocked out by any attack anyway, so it's a good place to put those damage counters.
So Azul a little bit tricky here. He has to find those combo pieces. I'm not really seeing... I believe this is off the Stellar Wish. He's just deciding which trainer he's going to take. Looks like he goes for a Cynthia.
It just seems like he's been stumbling pretty much every turn. He's able to get 1 knockout and get some damage out of the Ultra Necrozma GX, but it's just felt like he's been a bit off all game.
And it kind of feels like retreating the Ultra Necrozma was a good play from Christian there, just because it just means that Azul can't take 2 easy prizes, but there's a Guzma, and so onto the Jirachi.
Yeah, Azul just knows he needs to take prize cards every turn. He did not have Electro Power in hand, so the only thing he could go after there was the Jirachi.
And Christian wisely discarding a Marshadow GX. I don't think we're going to see that come into play this game. It's just 2 prizes, 2 easy prizes for Azul to take later on, and Zapdos is resistant to fighting, so certainly not your attacker of choice when you have Giratina and Ultra Necrozma GX available to you.
Yeah, not the best.
I would like to see Christian possibly get down another in-cage, just in case some of those Malamars are targeted and it becomes difficult to accelerate energy onto the attacker that you need at the time. But it looks like he's going to put down a Giratina from the discard pile and use that Distortion Door ability. Start powering it up with Psychic Recharge, just so he has a backup attacker if he needs to, if those Malamars are picked off by Azul.
Yeah, so now Christian, he retains his lead. He's still up by 2 prize cards, and he's got 2 Giratina pretty much powered up at this point. It's hard for me to figure out a way for Azul to come back here. I mean, there's 2 Giratina. They're both powered up. They can knock out everything in his deck.
I can see the cogs in your brain just rolling over saying, what could Azul do? What are his outs here?
Yeah, they don't look good. The only thing in his deck that can survive an attack from Giratina is Tapu Koko GX. But you still have the Ultra Necrozma sitting there at some point. You could just...
Yeah, and Azul realizes as well, I think. He thinks, unfortunately, I can't come back. I think that Giratina, the second Giratina that Christian put on the bench there, sort of sealed it for Azul. He kind of realized, I can get through 1 Giratina and maybe disrupt you enough, but don't think I can get through 2. That would definitely take 2 prizes. So Christian Hasbani will go up 1 game in this best-of-3 series. And like we said, this is just, you win this and you're probably locked into top 8. So this is a pretty important match, pretty high stakes. Azul is no stranger to the international streaming stage. He's certainly had a lot of accomplishments internationally, but for Christian, this is one of his first times playing on stream and being at an international championships and being this close to achieving a top 8, at one of these big international events alongside some of these known players that everyone looks up to and everyone sort of tries to model their decks and their play styles. Christian's among them now, and he's probably inspiring other people and teaching other people how to play Ultra Necrozma GX with Malamar.
You could see a look of frustration on Azul's face. He's so used to just winning against Malamar decks. He actually lost a game. It's like, this never happens. What is going on?
Well, hopefully we'll see a second game that's a little bit more in favor of Azul getting his strategy off that he's looking to use. And so we see Christian's prize cards here. Not too many things that he's going to be missing. So
he does play Acerola. That's a potentially big card in the matchup when you have to get 2-hit knockouts on GXs when you're playing the Zapdos deck. So that's something to keep an eye on. It is in his prize cards, but maybe at some point Acerola could be a big swing in a game.
And Azul's not using the strategy that Isaiah Williams was promoting, which is going second when you're playing Zapdos and Jirachi together. Azul's happy to set up this turn and just hope that he doesn't draw nothing like he did last game.
Yeah, that strategy makes a bit of sense when you're playing a Zapdos mirror match, when you know both players have the capability to attack on the first turn. When you're playing against something like a Malamar deck, there is no chance that they're ever going to attack you on the first turn for a knockout. So there's no downside to going first. You just always want to go first. Give yourself an extra turn to set up that Zapdos. Make sure you get the turn to attack, get a knockout, and then take the prize lead and then maintain it for the entire game.
Older variants of Ultra Necrozma GX sometimes run Chimecho, but I don't see that. I think Chimecho has fallen by the wayside now that Jirachi has come out with its Stellar Wish is possibly a little bit better than Bell of Silence, unfortunately.
Yeah, we did see Darren in an earlier round. He's the only one playing the pure Psychic build of the Malamar deck. He was actually still playing the Chimecho, but all the Ultra Necrozma builds seem to have dropped it.
I can only dream that he'll make top 8. I'm a huge Chimecho fan, so let's hope we see that one in play. So it looks like Azul's going to play an Ultra Ball, find a Jirachi, and then Lily for 6, which is a very respectable Lily. You want 8 cards, but you'll go with 6.
Yeah, he's hoping to find a switch or escape rope here, so he can switch to Jirachi, use that Stellar Wish ability, and then set himself up for future turns. Looks like once again he just doesn't find an energy card. There's only 8 in his whole deck, but he does run Thunder Mountain Prism Star and Energy Lotto, so about 10 ways to find energy cards. He can't attack this turn, but when you Lily and fill your hand up to 8 cards and you don't see an energy, it can be a bit annoying.
Yeah, having Jirachi in the active position actually has 2 benefits. One, you can use that Stellar Wish ability, and the second one is that Zapdos on the bench, well, when you move it to the active, that's when it gets the benefit of Thunderous Assault. It gets the extra effect of doing extra 70 damage, so having it on the bench to start with is great. So it's just a partnership, perfect partnership, these 2 cards.
Indeed. So in a lot of matchups in this situation, Azul would be nest balling for a second Jirachi. You would retreat, use Stellar Wish again, but against the Ultra Necrozma decks, you can't walk into that Sky Scorching Light GX. It's an easy way to give them a 2-prize turn, which you never really want to do. So Azul recognizing that, I'm sure he's played this matchup a lot over the course of the weekend already. But if you're playing at home and you ever play against this matchup, do not bench more Jirachi than you need to, because they might come back and bite you later.
Yeah, be careful of that Distortion Door ability, and it's something that we've been talking about a lot across this weekend with so many players playing Ultra Necrozma GX and Malamar, but we haven't really seen it put to effect. We haven't seen it take multiple prize cards. We've seen players setting themselves up for it, but not quite getting there. So, I'm hoping we'll see a Sky Scorching Light one of these days, but...
We did see one earlier, only for 1 prize, but
oh yeah, it was the game-winning prize, I think. So that was very relevant.
I guess technically it did knock out 2 things, but he only had 1 prize.
It was enough to take what he needed to.
Yeah, so we have seen one happen.
Okay, I'm satisfied with this weekend
then.
So we see multiple search cards there, finding 3 Inkays for Christian, and that's exactly what he wants to do on the first time.
Incredible start, yeah.
There's not much more you want. He even had a draw supporter, so that's a Cynthia. Of course, he would probably want a Lily, as Azul did, but Cynthia gets you 6 fresh cards and hopefully maybe an energy attachment or an energy in the discard pile so he can start using it next turn with Malamar's Psychic Recharge ability.
Yeah, and he hasn't even used Stellar Wish yet, so this is going to be an excellent turn. Off these 6 cards, I mean, he really needs to find energy and maybe ways to discard them. There's really not much else he wants. He's got the 3 Inkay. I guess he could try to attach energy somewhere, but I mean, this is about as good as it gets.
I'm not seeing too much in his hand other than Nest Ball. There might be a Lily. So definitely an energy. He did have the Giratina already in the discard pile, so he can just use that Distortion Door ability to get it onto the bench. But he's going to Stellar Wish first. Yeah. Nice order of operations there, recognizing all things that might be conditional. I want to do those first.
So yeah, going to go ahead and grab the Viridian Forest off the Stellar Wish and then use it immediately. Gets a Psychic Energy in the discard pile and then gets another one in his hand. Just a perfect little engine card for these Malamar decks.
Azul can also use Viridian Forest, which is very interesting because he struggled to find energy last turn, but also in the last game in general. So Viridian Forest is probably actually something that Azul's happy to see on the field because it does mean he can find some of his very few energy that he runs in his deck.
You see a second Jirachi coming down for Christian. You do have to be a bit weary about putting down too many small Pokemon against the Zapdos decks, just because each and every one of them can be targeted by Guzma for an easy knockout with Thunderous Assault. Of course, your opponent only has 4 Guzma to play with, but things like Escape Rope can be bad if you've filled up your bench with nothing but small HP Pokemon.
Yeah, there's nothing that can soak up a hit. It's just going to be knocked out.
Yeah.
And conversely to last game, we're going to see Azul probably take the first prize this time. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out, whether he can keep up and keep finding those Zapdos to really just take prizes on those Inkays. I'm not even sure if we saw some Electro Power last game. Maybe 1 or 2.
I don't think we did.
Yeah.
So yeah, Azul will get the first knockout here. He's already attached the Lightning Energy to his Zapdos. And with the Escape board on Jirachi, he can retreat. That will fulfill the bonus condition for Zapdos for the Thunderous Assault attack. If it was on your bench and became your active Pokemon this turn, you get 70 extra damage.
It's really interesting because a lot of people lamented the loss of Floatstone when it rotated out of the format, but this is one of those times when Floatstone's actually worse than a skateboard. A skateboard has that additional effect of your Pokemon can still retreat when they're asleep, and it's that's great for Jirachi because it's pretty much falling asleep constantly.
All right, so in the second game, Azul will take the first knockout, go up 1 prize card. Question is, can he maintain this lead for the rest of the game? Big HP non-GX Pokemon, such as Giratina, 130 is a lot to hit when you're playing the Zapdos deck. We saw yesterday the Zapdos deck can struggle with things like the Naganadel and the Blacephalon deck, where it has 130 HP, and it requires 2 Electro Powers or an Electro Power and Professor Kukui to get to that 130 damage. And that can cause a situation where if you miss Guzma or Escape Rope or you don't have the double Electro Power, you can't get a knockout, and that's one way for these Malamar decks to kind of take the prize lead back.
Right, so also Azul has a lot of those pieces in his hand already. He has the Professor Kukui. I'm not sure if he has the Electro Power, but he has ways that he can probably knock out this Giratina. And Christian, interestingly, doesn't play the Marshadow that has the Let Loose ability. So Azul, I'm not sure if he's aware of that, but his hand is pretty safe. It's not going to be disrupted by Christian anytime soon. Looks like Christian's going to play Cynthia, so that rules out the potential for a Judge as well. So Azul can start looking at his hand and planning out, hey, what am I going to do this turn? I know my Zapdos is going to be knocked out. I have Jirachi to use Stellar Wish. Can I get a knockout?
Yeah, and an excellent start once again from Christian. He's going to be able to attack on the second turn for a knockout, this time with Giratina and that Shadow Impact. It will do 130 damage and take down the Zapdos. So this is going to be a race. I think we'll see a bunch of Giratina from Christian's side, and of course we'll see nothing but Zapdos from Azul. And we'll see if Azul can continually find those escape ropes, those Guzma, those Electro Power, those key trainer cards that allow his Zapdos to hit for knockouts every turn.
And a big card in Azul's deck as well is Rescue Stretcher. He can only run 4 Zapdos, of course, because that is the limit for Pokemon that you can run in your deck of one type of Pokemon. But if he can't find those Rescue Stretcher in the times that he needs them, he might run out of Zapdos and not be able to continuously attack. Christian, conversely, is able to use Giratina every turn because it brings itself back from the discard pile. It has like an inbuilt Rescue Stretcher.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, Christian decides to put 4 damage counters on Giratina with the Shadow Impact. It's a bit interesting if Azul is forced to knock out Giratina over and over, and Christian is able to use Distortion Door 4 times, he can set up Absol for the Sky Scorching Light as well.
And you have to think that's what he's going for by putting those damage counters on the Absol instead of the Zapdos, recognizing that, hey, this is a Pokemon that I could deal 60 damage to later and take multiple prizes in one turn, and that's his way to pull ahead in this matchup, especially when they're each taking 1 prize per turn. If you can take 2, I mean, that's your way to win.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just something Azul's going to have to keep in mind. If he knocks out Giratina twice, that can set up the double prize turn for the Sky Scorching Light later on. That's just another way for Christian to pull out this game later on.
I have to say, we've said a lot of things about these Lightning decks, but I do like the combo pieces and how people have to work around different plays. And this Ultra Necrozma GX deck, I mean, yes, it's built to be able to use Giratina consecutively, but it wants to be using Ultra Necrozma GX. So these single prize attacker decks like Zapdos, Jirachi, them forcing other players to revert to that plan B and use different strategies that they might not have built their deck around. It's a very interesting play for this tournament.
So we do see Azul retreating into the Zapdos. Had already got a damage modifier there, so is able to knock out the Giratina, but that sends it back to the discard pile where it can use Distortion Door one more time. And that means that Absol will go up to 3 damage counters. That's just 1 away from that Sky Scorching Light turn later on in the game. So from this point on, Azul almost has to play around that. He has to find Guzma every single turn. And Christian very intelligently has put the other Giratina on his bench. Takes away the option of Escape Rope from Azul, because if Azul plays Escape Rope, he'll just send out the other Giratina. So he's going to force Azul to have Guzma every single turn for the rest of the game. Otherwise, we might see that Ultra Necrozma clean up later on.
Yeah, really forward thinking there. I think the only route open to Azul here is to knock out the Jirachi with the Guzma or to knock out Malamars if he can, and hopefully prevent those Giratinas from being able to have multiple Psychic Recharge onto them so they can just keep attacking each turn and keep that chain going. So it's going to be a question of whether he can find Guzma or find ways to knock out Pokemon that aren't Giratina. And, Jirachi helps you do that with Stellar Wish. Looks like Christian's still targeting that Absol and targeting the Jirachi. He's putting another damage counter onto the Zapdos. Makes sense. You don't really need any more damage counters on that Jirachi. It's going to be knocked out by Sky Scorching Light anyway, if that option becomes available. But then we see a Guzma from Christian. He's going to be knocking out one of Azul's few Zapdos that he plays.
Yep, and he's just going to go ahead, take another prize card, continue the pressure. And this is kind of the start of the chain of Guzma that Azul will need. He'll need it for 3 consecutive turns. He can go for an Inkay, then go for a Jirachi, and then one turn he'll need Guzma plus Electro Power. It's going to be a rough go of trying to finish this game. I mean, you only have 4 Guzma in your deck. He's basically limited to using 1 Jirachi because if you put more than 1 down, it's also liable for that distortion door. Although at this point, I think you can get away with putting down a second Jirachi. If you're never going to knock out a Giratina, then, I mean, there's no risk of distortion door plus Sky Scorching Light.
And it's next level thinking as well to put those 4 damage counters on the other Giratina, because it means that if Azul does play Escape Rope, you can send out the Giratina and be knocked out and then use its Distortion Door ability.
Right.
I mean, it sounds a bit silly because you don't want your Pokemon to be knocked out ordinarily, but in this case, it actually allows you to win the game. And Azul there, crucially, finding a Guzma off the Stellar Wish.
Indeed. Something else, Christian does play that 1 Acerola. So if he is able to fish it out of his prize cards at some point, by putting 4 damage counters on it with Shadow Impact, at some point he could Acerola, pick it up back into his hand, then discard it, and get the final Distortion Door that way.
That's a bit too exciting. I think I kind of want that to happen now. That's a really next level play. You can use that with Viridian Forest. Oh, there's so many combinations.
Yeah, we could see it happen. So Azul does find the first Guzma. The first of 3 he will need to pull off this game. Yeah, might as well go for Inkay before it has a chance to evolve. The Jirachi will always be there to knock out, so might as well take out the Inkay before it evolves into Malamar, because if it evolved, then you would need an Electro Power. So the chain of turns for Azul is going to have to be Guzma the Inkay, knock it out, Guzma Jirachi, knock it out, and then at some point Guzma a Malamar, play an Electro Power, knock it out. Then we'll have both players down to 1 prize card, but Azul will be the first one to attack and finish off the game.
It sounds pretty easy, right?
Yeah, with Jirachi, anything's possible.
Ah, that's what they said about Viridian Forest. Like, Team Up brought us so many cards that give so many different combo pieces. But there we go. So we see a knockout on the Zapdos. Decides to put the 4 damage counters onto the Giratina in the active. Again, kind of willing Azul to knock it out and not giving him an easy prize on the Malamar.
And of course, Azul, a very smart player. He knows 3 damage counters on the Absol means 1 more Distortion Door and sets up the Sky Scorching Light for the 2 prize swing. Both players have navigated this matchup very well so far. I'm sure they've both had plenty of opportunities to play against each other's decks at this point, as these are 2 of the most popular decks in the field. And Azul does find yet another Guzma, so he's finding everything he needs so far.
Yeah, able to keep that Guzma chain going. I mean, how many has he played now is the question, though, because he can only play so many. And Christian does have 2 Giratinas knocking on the door, both powered up completely. So that will be at least 2 more prizes that he'll be able to take unless something is stalled in the active position.
And this is the power of Jirachi and that Stellar Wish ability. A lot of decks just can't afford to use their supporter card on Guzma every turn, but when you have Jirachi constantly digging through your deck, going for trainer cards, you can afford to play Guzma and then still have that Jirachi to search for other crucial cards. And because Zapdos is such a low maintenance card, all you need is to put 1 Lightning Energy on it. You can afford to just Stellar Wish, play Guzma every single turn, and operate your strategy successfully. It's not like an evolution deck where you need to constantly find more basic Pokemon, more evolutions, or like a stage 2 deck where you need to keep finding rare candy and things like that. You just need to find Zapdos, energy. That's it.
Yeah, really interesting. Azul just discarded an energy card and actually drew his final energy card from his deck. So it kind of implies to me that he may only get 2 more turns to attack, which isn't really enough to take 3 prizes unless he has a way of getting that energy back through that Tapu Koko's Dance of the Ancients.
Yeah, I think he's got that in mind. I mean, in fact, that gives you 2 energy cards, so that's 2 more Zapdos you can power up. So he does have 2 Zapdos down on the bench.
And there it is. There's the Tapu Koko Prism Star.
Yeah.
So it does mean that he's not out of energy just yet, but it does mean that his deck isn't clogged with energy. So it's kind of like a cool play there. Really interesting interaction. Then it's a Guzma down onto the Malamar.
Yeah, he does have the Electro Power, so you might as well take this knockout this turn while you still have it. Zul might not know if his opponent plays Judge or any way to disrupt his hand, so might as well take that knockout now. The Jirachi's still going to be there. You can knock that out on the following turn if you find another Guzma. And Azul is doing all he can to try to win this game.
I'm thinking ahead a couple of turns. I think Christian has to put down an Inkay this turn. Otherwise, if Azul takes 2 knockouts on different Giratinas, he won't actually be able to power up the 3rd Giratina on the turn that he needs it. Looks like he's going to retreat the Giratina, though, and promote a Jirachi.
Wow, yeah. Opts to discard 3 energy to retreat just so he can Stellar Wish with this Jirachi. Finds a switch, but like you said, he's probably looking for an Inkay.
Does have the Rescue Stretcher to be able to get it back. He's going to search through his deck now, discarding an energy card with that Viridian Forest, just to see what he still has available to him and what's in his deck still. Honestly, not seeing many energy in there. He just discarded. Yeah.
I was
just thinking.
Viridian Forest is good, but not that good.
So I think that Metal Energy might be the last energy in Christian's deck, which is a little bit awkward when you've run out of your way to accelerate energy from the discard pile, which is that Psychic Recharge Malamar.
Yeah, it's also a bit awkward because if he doesn't put down another Inkay, Azul can simply Guzma the Malamar, knock it out, and that takes away all hopes of the Sky Scorching Light GX play because you won't be able to accelerate the energy onto Ultra Necrozma. And you don't want to bench it this turn because then it would give Azul an opportunity to take 2 prize cards and win the game on the next turn.
So he only has 1 Psychic Recharge available. He was playing like a normal Malamar player where you just have millions of Malamars on the bench and you just load energy onto one thing. And there's a Guzma coming out onto Azul's Tapu Koko Prison. Really interesting. Actually, that's probably going to deny Azul from being able to attack 3 times more this game. But 2 should do it if he can chain Guzmas.
Yeah, I mean, if both those Zapdos get knocked out, he loses anyway. So.
Oh, of course. Christian's on 2 prizes.
Yeah. So ultimately, that's probably not doing very much. All right, so Azul needs to find Guzma once more. It might come down to this big Stellar Wish if he doesn't have it in hand already.
And like you said, at this point, he could actually put down another Jirachi. He's not really at risk if he really has to find that Guzma. Putting down Jirachi now is not such a bad thing.
This game is very much down to the wire at this point. You could also consider using Tapu Koko GX at this point. If there's only 1 Malamar in play, there's no threat of Tapu Koko GX being knocked out in 1 hit. Even with the Choice Band from a Giratina, it only does 160 damage. So if you have Tapu Koko GX plus a Guzma to go after the Malamar, it's not a bad play either. But the main thing is Azul needs to take a knockout here, but it can't be on either of these Giratina. Otherwise, he walks into that Sky Scorching Light GX, and Christian's going to take the series and pretty much lock up a spot in the top 8.
And although Sky Scorching Light does require 2 energy cards, 1 Malamar is all that's needed to get that job done. Christian just needs to find a middle energy, 1 Psychic Recharge onto the Ultra Necrozma.
Big Stellar Wish here. Does Azul find Guzma? I don't believe he does. I think he would have slammed it down.
Grabbed it straight out.
All right, and at this point, I mean, he could go for another Jirachi. If there's no Distortion Door available, then, I mean, it doesn't hurt to put down that extra Jirachi. And we do see Azul digging for it because he knows he has to get Guzma this turn.
You can only retreat once per turn, but that doesn't really matter when you're really digging for Guzma, and that is your win condition. So it is essentially a switching effect. I mean, he also does run switch as well.
Right. So this is going to be a nerve-wracking moment for Azul. He knows he needs to find Guzma right here. Will it be in his top 5 cards?
Christian just giving a shuffle, just willing there to be no Guzma in the top 5. Going to play Escape Rope first.
Yep.
Brings
Easy decision for Christian. Sends out the Giratina like he's had planned all along. But here we go. Huge 5 cards here for Azul. Can he find the Guzma? Give himself a chance to win this game. There it is.
Excellent, excellent card to see.
Okay, he's not slamming it down as fast as I thought he would. Seems to be a bit of confusion here. I mean, it is a new Jirachi, so it can use Stellar Wish.
Almost feel like he was questioning whether Christian actually promoted a different Pokemon. They look very similar, those 2 Pokemon.
All right, so Azul can play Guzma here, go down to a single prize card. And unless Christian can somehow take 2 prize cards on the next turn, You got to think Azul's going to find Electro Power or some way to take the final knockout on his turn. This is down to the wire. A top 8 spot is on the line here at the Oceania International Championships.
And you might wonder if putting those 4 damage counters now on the Giratinas is possibly a mistake, because it means that Azul only needs 1 damage modifier to be able to knock those out if he can't find another Guzma to take the Jirachi or the Inkay or the Malamar.
At the same time, putting the damage counters on there gives Christian an opportunity to ace Sorolla, pick up one of those Giratina, and pull off a game-winning play.
Now, it wasn't his prizes, but was it one of the last 2 prizes? I can't remember the ordering.
Guess we'll find out.
There is I think I saw something in his hand that looks suspiciously like a Sorolla, but that could just be my mind playing tricks.
All right, so here we go. Christian's going to promote this Giratina. Does he see the game-winning line? He's got the Acerola in hand. If he can pick up one of those Giratina, discard it with Viridian Forest, use Distortion Door to put 1 more damage counter on that Absol, and then charge up Ultra Necrozma GX for Sky Scorching Light, he can win this game.
I've never been so excited for a play.
Oh, okay, so he has everything, but not Ultra Necrozma in his hand. And if he plays Acerola as his supporter for the turn, then he can't search for the Ultra Necrozma GX.
Yeah, quite awkward.
So you saw Azul actually targeted down Jirachi with the Guzma. It might look a little strange, but took away that opportunity to use Stellar Wish. And if Christian had an opportunity to use that, perhaps he would have found a Mysterious Treasure or an Ultra Ball, some way to find Ultra Necrozma GX. But where it's standing right now, Christian's going to be just barely off.
He's going to have to. Looks like he might be targeting Cynthia for his supporter for the turn, which is not that Acerola. Oh, looks like he does play the Acerola. Picks up the Giratina.
Nope, you don't get the Acerola back.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, that seems like a strange move. I mean, at that point, I'm not sure why you even bother playing Acerola. I guess this forces Azul to have quite a bit. You'll need some way to move the Zapdos plus Choice Band and Electro Power to knock out Tapu Lele GX, but this is where, if he has one of those escape ropes, it could come in huge. If he also has Tapu Koko GX, he can play that down, use Arrow Trail, and then he'll just need a single damage modifier to Tapu Thunder GX for the game.
Oh, I thought he just played Energy Lotto and looked at his whole deck, thinking
that'd be much better.
Not quite how that card works,
Yeah.
but no, discarding it with Viridian Forest. It's sort of a better Energy Lotto in this case.
This has been quite the back and forth matchup. Got to say, excellent play from both sides, and you wouldn't expect anything less from Azul. Just amazing play to play around his opponent's win condition.
So we see a big Stellar Wish here.
He finds Electro Power.
4 cards. That's an escape rope.
Okay, so if he has Tapu Koko GX in hand, the Electro Power will win the game. Choice Band does it too. With those 3 energy cards in play, Tapu Thunder GX does 150 damage.
There it is.
And there it is, the
Moves itself
only
into the active position.
Pokemon GX in his deck, Tapu Koko. Choice Band and Tapu Thunder going to clean up this game, and Azul's going to tie the series at 1 game apiece.
Yes, I think we'll see some quite rapid play from both players here, because I think both will be very keen to get a win here. A tie doesn't actually eliminate them from the tournament. A tie is still a great point that they could carry into potentially the top 8, but a win almost secures it. And it means there's not really so much pressure on the next game either. Sorry, the next match, that is. This game, high pressure.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if they tie here, the next game is going to be super high pressure, because it's basically win to make top 8.
With only 11 minutes remaining, we can see a game. I mean, it is possible that both players, I mean, this Zapdos and Jirachi deck so fast can actually take prizes very quickly, especially if Christian isn't able to set up any Malamars, get that Giratina going. Conversely, Christian as well, if he can find the Beast Energy to go on the Ultra Necrozma GX and just attach 1 energy, well, I mean, he can just swing and take prizes each turn as well. So both players potentially fast options with their decks for taking 6 prizes.
All right, we'll see if we can determine a winner here in the final 10 minutes of this match. Both players winning 1 game apiece. A win could put either of these players in contention for the top 8. We just have 1 more round after this one. And we are whittling down the field. Looks like there's a bit of discussion at the table. Not sure what's going on here, but... we do have a bit of an issue where both players are using the same sleeves. So it can be very easy to mix up cards. It looks like that might be what happened there.
Yeah, Christian just recounting how many cards he has in a deck. Standard Pokemon trading card game deck has 60 cards, so Christian happens to have 59 or 61. We know that something's gone wrong here. But this is not...
Yeah, you don't want to draw your opening hand if you're Christian and you find a lightning energy. Like, that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I can't think of anything in his deck that could benefit from that.
Yeah.
No, there's no interesting techs. Conversely, if Azul finds a metal energy, well, Jirachi can start swinging, so...
Right.
They're just checking lists, checking counts. Christian's looking quite perplexed. And I mean, a lot of these cards run the same cards now. They're completely different archetypes, but they both run things like Jirachi. It's probably the common card, you know, a skateboard as well.
All right, so the judge is counting Azul's deck. Christian is counting his own deck. They're trying to make sure, I mean, that there's 60 cards in each player's deck. It would be heartbreaking for Christian if it turns out he's playing with 59 cards this whole time.
Uh-oh.
So it does sound like a Viridian Forest somehow got swapped into the wrong deck. So hopefully we'll get that sorted out quickly. And I'm not sure if this is something that would warrant a time extension, because this is eating up quite a bit of time at this point.
And I mean, is this good or bad for the players? If they don't get the time extension, obviously that's not a great thing. They really want to have as much time as possible to finish this game 3. But also, does it kind of break the flow of the game? Does it break the momentum? Sort of, you know, kick them out of the zone a little bit? I'm hoping not. I'm hoping we'll see a good game 3 where both players can set up optimally, and we'll see some of those really high-level plays that we've been seeing across this whole series. I think both players very aware of what their opponent's outs are, very aware of what they want to achieve. I'm really trying to play around any strategies that they think their opponent is going to use.
All right, looks like we've got it all sorted out. Christian gets his Viridian Forest back into his deck, and we are setting up here for game number 3. Will we see a winner at this point? Christian had excellent starts in the first 2 games. Let's see if he can follow that up with a good one in the 3rd game. And if you're Azul, you need to just put on the pressure with Zapdos. Take prizes every single turn.
A few searching cards there in Christian. That is 2 Zapdos and a Jirachi. It's not nice to see in the discard in the prize cards.
Yeah, that's a lot of his ways to get Zapdos.
I was going to say that Christian has prized a few ways to search for Inkays, but here we are. There's already 3 on the field, so I don't think he misses those too much.
Who needs to search for them when you just draw them?
Yeah, exactly. Mysterious Treasure now is one of his other ways of searching out another Inkay. So he's going to start the game with 4 Inkay.
Not bad.
And a Cynthia. Nice to have a draw supporter as well. Sure, he would have liked to have seen a Jirachi. Unfortunately, Jirachi can't be searched for by Mysterious Treasure. It's probably the only card in the Ultra Necrozma GX Malamar deck that can't be found with that Mysterious Treasure. So it's sort of usually your target for Nest Ball or Ultra Ball instead.
Right. So Christian, I mean, he's off to a good start here. He's got the 4 Inkay out. I mean, you can't ask for a whole lot more, but he has no Psychic Energy in the discard pile. So I think if there's anything else he wants, it's maybe to play an energy, discard some Psychic Energy so he can set up the Malamar on the next turn. He does find the Jirachi, and he's able to retreat into it, so perfect.
Yeah, really nice play, especially getting an energy into the discard pile. What will he find here? Just the Ultra Ball is the only trainer he sees off those 5 cards with Stellar Wish. Of course, you're going to grab that if you don't need it immediately. It's a great tool to have for the next turn.
And we see Nest Ball from Christian. Going to probably grab something like Giratina, or well, that seems odd. Getting another Jirachi. I mean, it's...
There we are.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, then you leave yourself with no attacking Pokemon.
Especially when you need to take 6 quick prize cards. I think you definitely want to have something on the field that can deal 1-hit knockouts, and that is certainly that Giratina. It's definitely an option that most of these decks go towards when they're facing off against a single prize attacker deck. You certainly want to be attacking with Giratina. So Azul on his side. Not the supporter you want to be playing on the first turn of the game, Professor Kukui, and he sort of knows it.
All right, just going to draw 2 cards. That's worse than how.
Yeah. In this case, definitely.
He does have an Ultra Ball in hand, and it looks like an escape board as well, so he will be able to get the crucial turn 1 knockout. He's also got Thunder Mountain Prism Star if he wants to Ultra Ball away the Lightning Energy, and he can use Dance of the Ancients later since he already does have that Tapu Koko Prism Star.
So even from a hand that we would consider to be suboptimal, there are so many options in this Jirachi Zapdos build. It's quite incredible.
Yeah, we have been informed there will be no time extension, and Azul has also received a warning for taking one of his opponent's cards.
Accidentally taking a Viridian Forest.
Yeah, but making a lengthy decision here, trying to figure out which cards to Ultra Ball away.
Well, it's pretty important, right? Like cards like Electro Power, which is unfortunately having to Ultra Ball away. Sort of your key ways to knock out things like Giratina or even Malamars. You're only dealing 80 damage ordinarily with Thunderous Assault. That Electro Power is how you get to 90. Or greater, that is. Right. 110.
Yeah, but does find the Zapdos. He does have Escape Board and Lightning Energy and Thunder Mountain Prism Star, so he'll be able to get a knockout on the first turn, and that's exactly what he needs to be doing.
What more could you need?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he would love to see like a Jirachi or a better supporter card than Professor
Certainly
Kukui,
a Cynthia or a Lily, but does manage to take the first prizes and gets a Jirachi off those prize cards. And interestingly, if he is able to continue taking prizes, he will probably be drawing those Zapdos, which are additional attackers for each turn. So he's kind of just taking prizes and taking what he needs for the next turn.
All right, so Christian does play an Ultra Ball. He has 1 Psychic Energy in the discard pile currently. He Ultra Balls away an energy, but it's a Metal Energy, so currently just 1 Psychic Energy to use Psychic Recharge with. It's going to be a big turn for him if he can pull off a knockout, but currently it's seeming a little unlikely. He's going to need to find 2 more energy and a way to discard a Psychic Energy and a way to get Malamar.
We know that 2 Mysterious Treasures are prized as well, and that's a key way. Oh, I don't see any energy at all. He doesn't run Marshadow either to let loose, to refresh his hand to another 4 to kind of keep trying to find those energy either. So I don't know if he'll be able to get an attack off this turn.
Yeah, just has to go for another Jirachi. So Christian, his deck worked flawlessly in the first 2 games. He was able to get turn 2 attacks with ease, setting up multiple Malamar, getting Ultra Necrozma GX in the first game, Giratina in the second game. But in the third game, he does stumble. And this is when it becomes a difficult matchup against these Zapdos decks. If you stumble on your setup just a little bit, it's very unlikely that the Zapdos deck is going to stumble because it's so simple, so straightforward. It's going to be able to use Thunderous Assault pretty much every turn. But Christian is going to switch into his Giratina and try to make this as difficult as possible for his opponent.
Yeah, it chooses not to play the Viridian Forest as well, which means that Azul can't benefit from that and find an energy either.
And Christian trying to figure out if he should use Psychic Recharge here.
I think we've moved over to Azul's turn.
Yeah, seems like it.
Yeah, that's right.
His hand is terrible.
That's why he was doing nothing. He wasn't waiting for Christian.
Right.
He was just taking a moment to lament his hand. But he's going to use Stellar Wish, and that's the way that most players this weekend have just been finding the pieces that they needed. So, you know, it's not unusual.
If Azul can find Guzma or Escape Rope here, he can take a knockout using the Thunder Mountain Prism Star in his hand. I mean, he's kind of running on fumes at this point. He has barely any cards to work with, so he's actually going to go for Cynthia instead, probably play down. Oh, no, he's not even playing the Stadium down. It's very interesting. It would make it so that if he drew Escape Rope off the Cynthia, he would have a guaranteed attack, but it seems like he's conserving that Stadium card for another time.
And this is where that internal clock that all these competitive players have comes into play. I think both are very aware that these 3 games have gone for quite a long time now, and so there's a little bit of time left for me to take 6 prizes and really secure that win. Again, like we said, a draw, it does not mean both players are out of the tournament. It means that they just have to win their next game to really give themselves the best shot at getting into top 8.
So Azul had Escape Rope, and he opted not to play it. He could have used the Dance of the Ancients to get the lightning energy onto Zapdos and then played Escape Rope, but he didn't have Electro Power in hand, so if Christian kind of called his bluff and sent out Malamar, he would have missed a knockout and basically wasted an Escape Rope. So hard to tell if that's the right play, but Azul does miss an attack on that turn, which gives Christian an opening to perhaps power up his Giratina and start fighting back in this game.
And as we move to 12 seconds left in the round, I don't see either players are going to be taking 5 or 6 prizes this round to seal this game. So I would say that it looks like it's going to end in a draw, but you never really know what's going to happen with Zapdos and Jirachi. Seems to pull something out every time.
I'm going to go ahead and say that this is going to end in a tie.
Oh, big call. It looks like there's a Psychic Recharge coming down on the Giratina. Sorry, an attach from hand and 2 Psychic Recharges coming down. So we will see a knockout using Giratina. Its Shadow Impact attack on the Jirachi, which does make it a little bit more awkward for Azul because he doesn't have that Stellar Wish ability to be able to keep finding supporters if he does not have one in hand. And Christian will go down to 5 prizes. They have 5 prizes even.
Yeah, I mean, this is
going
to be a close game. It's still anybody's game, but we just don't seem to have the time to finish.
And Azul especially doesn't have too much going on in his hand. He has ways to find energy, ways to switch around. I think that's a Guzma and a Thunder Mountain as well. So we'll have to see exactly. Looks like Azul's going to be discarding an energy lotto to find an energy. That will give his Zapdos an opportunity to attack. He does still have that Thunder Mountain as well, though, so he can replace the Viridian Forest. Deny Christian the ability to use that effect. But not too much happening for Azul here. He can find a Jirachi.
Yep, he can go ahead and retreat thanks to the escape board, use Stellar Wish, and then try to do something like an Escape Rope or Guzma on this turn, get a knockout with the Zapdos. But yeah, I mean, at 5 prizes apiece, it's just, we have probably an extra 10, 20 minutes before this game would ever resolve, and currently the clock is showing all zeros, so seems very unlikely we'll come to a decisive winner.
This would be a great game to see in, say, a final series with a lot more time, and the third game can definitely resolve.
This would be an excellent, like, top 8 match where we would have a winner. We'd have more time to play out the game, but yeah.
We have an Escape Rope. Thunder Mountain will bounce Christian's Viridian Forest from play. Lily for 6 cards for Azul. We'll find him just a few more pieces.
Yep, and he will take the knockout thanks to Thunder Mountain Prism Star, allowing that Zapdos to attack for free.
Christian pretty ready though. He has that Giratina on the bench fully powered up. And his deck does run a few escape boards, one of which is in hand. So once he has used Stellar Wish, he can retreat the Jirachi if he so chooses and just take a knockout back on the Zapdos. And that's really the story of this game, isn't it? It's just 1 prize for 1 prize each turn. Both players not really missing a beat. I'd say Azul sort of missed a few pieces in the first game, and then the second game played optimally. But there is the handshake. Looks like Christian and Azul will tie up that game and go to 29 match points, which we think is just shy of the cutoff for top 8. But you never really know how the points are going to go, who's winning, who's tying. But both these players still at least keeping their hopes of making top 8 alive.
Yeah, they'll both be at 28 match points after this. And they have 27 entering the round, so a tie will give them 1 more. Fortunately, there is 1 more Swiss round to play, and you got to think both of these players, if they're able to secure a victory, a 3